Iniciamos.
Y a mí me ponen como en el canal de intérprete.
Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I think we are just starting. We will wait for a few minutes, a couple, not more, because we have been instructed to finish this special session 10 minutes before to allow the next session to connect properly. So welcome everyone to this special session organized by Juaro Commission. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. And while people is connecting, because we have just attendees that are starting to join us, perhaps I can take the advantage of this first minutes to ensure interpretation is working, translation, and that's
Okay, now I got the channel. Okay.
What?
Sorry, you've assigned me as an interpreter.
A
But
mí
I
no
am
me, no me llegó la opción de conectarme como intérprete.
Mara, ¿tú vas a estar de español a inglés?
Ambos.
What do you mean me to send me that?
so, Marcela.
Lo
if
que
you
hacemos
can
siempre
send
es que nos vamos cambiando conforme el momento que vamos a hablar, nos ponemos en inglés o en español, pero al mandarnos la opción de intérpretes, nos conecta a ambos canales. Por eso es que ya no vimos a Susana, porque Susana está hablando ya en el canal de interpretación.
Gracias, Mara. Creo que vamos a pedir a Marcela, que nos está asistiendo en esta sesión especial, a ver si puede gestionar que tú también puedas estar en la interpretación. No sé si Marcela puede ayudarnos. Las dos intérpretes son Susana y Mara.
No, no escucho.
Ya están ambas como intérpretes. ¿Podrían confirmarme?
No, a mí no me aparece la opción, o sea, me aparece la opción de abajo.
You have assigned me as an interpreter instead of Mara.
Marcela, creo que me has enviado a mí un mensaje, porque me acaba de salir a mí un mensaje de si que he sido...
Es que este es el correo que me pasaron para las intérpretes. Si me pueden pasar... A ver, espera un momento.
Ajá, y Molly está asignada como intérprete y no es Molly, sino Mara Rodríguez Aquicho.
Ahí estás, Mara Rodríguez. ¿Me confirman, por favor?
Aún no me aparece la opción.
Pues aquí tengo a Mara y a Susana como intérpretes.
No me aparece. Si quieren, salgo y vuelvo a entrar a ver si se puede.
A ver,
Aquí
checa.
está, listo.
Perfecto.
Not hearing.
Perdón, Ana, creo que no, estamos teniendo un problema y no te estamos escuchando. ¿Podrías confirmarnos si estás on mute? De las intérpretes solo tengo a Susana Díaz y a Mara Rodríguez, ya no está Ana Moreno.
I can see people writing that the English channel is not working. Is anyone checking?
Okay, so Marcela, when I look at the list of panelists.
Did anyone hear me?
Yes, Violet, hold on a second. You're not hearing me?
Yes, very well. Yeah, I can see in the chat People are writing that the English channel is
I'm changing this right now. I don't know why there are too many interpreters. I'm sorry.
So we'd like to acknowledge now that there are 39 participants waiting to be part of our session. We apologize for the technical details that we're working out right now. It is to make sure that there's effective participation by all of our participants and our panelists. We should be able to iron this out in the next few minutes. So we ask for your patience and we apologize.
We just lose people from the call. Shingle's gone now.
What is happening? Mia, could you make sure Shangul is still connected?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
They changed me to an attendee. I can't see anything.
Can you come here and speak to her?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal if I'm in there or not, but they can't just.
Is to speak.
So Shangul was changed, I think, from an attendee to a, yeah, I know, from an attendee to, from a panelist to an attendee.
Just tell them what to do. The action.
So Shangul needs to be promoted to a panelist. So do the people that are listed as speakers who are now in the attendees column. Additionally, Molly should be changed back to a panelist, as should Lana Finnegan and Francis Barungi. If you could please move Molly back too. Thank you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Can they
So we
speak?
still have a number of people assigned as interpreters that shouldn't be. One of which is Francis Barungi. Another is speaker that has interpreter in parentheses, even though they are not an interpreter. Additionally, I've been assigned as interpreter.
Molly.
And I am not Molly. Sorry.
Les pedimos por favor que no cambien sus roles. Estamos cambiando las roles de intérpretes a a panelistas, pero les pedimos que los dejen así, por favor.
Could we translate that? Okay, so the question is, are we able to start with our opening now while you continue to transfer people that are not interpreters to panelists? Because we have 44 people.
Yes, you can
ready.
start now.
Okay, so Violet and Anna, we turn it to you to make opening remarks, and then I will be the person who helps call on the speakers.
Thank you, Sandy. Violet, please, I don't know if you can hear me, so.
I can't hear Anna. Have you begun?
Yes, please go ahead. I think from my side, I just wanted to say.
So
welcome.
Anna is in the interpreter category. So if you could turn to Anna Moreno first, and among the others, but Violet, why don't you introduce yourself and explain why WIRO Commission is holding this session? Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, all protocols observed, for the participants, the key leadership that we have here today from many institutions, and the grassroots women leaders that we also have here. It's our pleasure as WIRO Commission to host this very important session today, particularly in this current situation that we are all in, and we can really associate with this situation because we know very well that we could be doing this meeting physically, but here we are virtually because of the current situation of that the globe is going through because of the pandemic. So my name is Violet Shibutse. I am the chair of the Governing Council for WIRO Commission. I am a grassroots woman leader from Kenya, working with a community-based organization called Shibuya Community Health Workers, that is a member of WIRO Commission. WIRO Commission works in 51 countries globally, and we are a movement of grassroots women that are agents of change from different levels of organizing to ensure they realize the SDGs, but also to be able to improve the lives of their lives and the lives of people in the community. So I will start by giving a small vision of the session today, and Ana Moreno, my colleague, and who will be leading this session, and Sandy will take over. So this session today is coming from the context that since the beginning of this global pandemic that began last year, like when the climax reached in March, we have witnessed how grassroots women have been on the forefront in our movement and even in other regions of the world in championing activities that respond to COVID-19. And this is not the first time we are seeing grassroots women on the stage in a pandemic, global pandemic, even in disasters. Grassroots women have always organized themselves during this, any time that there is disaster. I myself, I am a leader that surfaced very much because of HIV/AIDS. That was a very huge pandemic in Africa. And we organized and began our work as caregivers. And that's how I actually started interacting in these spaces to be able to show the contribution of grassroots women during such scenario. And now we are here because the world is thinking through a process of what does recovery mean. And it is a very important time for us because as grassroots women, we have always had solutions and innovations on what really promotes sustainability, what is rebuilding, after such kind of pandemics have happened. We have seen how grassroots women have been very strong during tsunamis, during very different contexts. I've mentioned HIV, and always we come up to say, how do we rebuild? How do we recover for a better future? So we are here to start staging our strategies as grassroots women, not just limiting to members of Wairu Commission, but grassroots women that are participating now in this Mexican forum to be able to come together and start thinking through what does recovery for us look like. So today's session is mainly looking at what grassroots women, how we define recovery, how do we want to engage, what kind of partnerships do we envision in this recovery process, and what is it that we can be able to learn, even in this timing that we have 10 years, I think it's now 9, for us to realize the Sustainable Development Goals. How can we be able to use this time to say what paces, how do we have to increase the pace of our working, the pace of partners working, to ensure that even with COVID-19, we are still able to realize the SDGs that matter, especially the SDGs that matter in improving the lives of women, because we will not be using these excuses of HIV, the excuses of disaster, the excuses of many things that are coming or have been happening as pandemics to keep women back and say that women will remain vulnerable. We want to see how we can position grassroots women in this discussion. So I welcome you all, and I will ask Anne Moreno to lead us in what the agenda would look like, and also take us through the objectives one by one. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Violet. I'm not so sure you can. Let's try. And
Anna, we're not hearing you.
Yes, I think it's because I have my role as an interpreter.
Okay, we thought she had, so Violet, I'm going to substitute for Anna now in just reviewing the agenda because we haven't ironed out the technical problems. So as Violet said, we're very pleased to welcome 47 participants in our session today. We hope that many of you are representing yourselves, community-based, grassroots-led organizations, and are also partners in working for the full economic justice and empowerment of grassroots women's organizations as full participants and claimants to investments and decision-making roles in the COVID-19 recovery process. Our goal is to be very serious about positioning the contributions grassroots women's organizations in rural and urban poor communities have been making in responding to the pandemic. We know that in our own network, women have been taking key roles in food security, in health and sanitation, in producing data and information for decision makers to build responses on. And we believe these contributions have been done with a tremendous amount of hard work, and they need to qualify as future investments in the decision-making role and financing of community-based women's groups. The purpose of this session today is to hear from the experiences of grassroots women's organizations in about 9 parts of the world, 8 to 9. We will spend the first 45 minutes giving speakers from a range of countries a chance to share what they've been doing and what their priorities are, and then to hear from participants how you've been organized and responding to the pandemic and the priority advocacy priorities you have for the recovery phase and the partnerships you have to make these claims a reality. So concretely, in order to make up for the technical challenges we've faced, we've called this session a compensation for contributions. Our focus is looking at how to reward and resource grassroots women's work in the pandemic. In the recovery phase, we will have 3 key focuses in our discussion: how we are seeking to restore women's livelihoods, incomes, and access to markets; how we are prioritizing expanding grassroots women's economic and political decision-making roles and opportunities; and what roles can we take that ensure that grassroots women's organizations are co-leading the planning and implementation of gender-just, resilient, local community development recovery investments. So with this said, we're going to start one of 3 strategic panels. The first panel, the topic of these 3 panels will be the emerging priorities and strategic actions to advance grassroots women's priorities. The first topic is expectations of grassroots national networks contributing and advocating at scale. We're going to turn to representatives from Nepal who are representing a large women-led savings and credit national network. And we're going to hear from a grassroots leader working with Lumanti and working with the Community Women's Forum on the actions they're taking in Nepal to respond to the pandemic and be included in the recovery. After Nepal, we will hear a representative, Raylinda Sosa, from the president of the Peruvian Community Kitchens Movement, who will talk about their role in women-led social protection and social development in urban and rural poor communities and the ways forward. We turn to our Nepalese leaders now to begin their presentation, and you have roughly 4 minutes, please. Welcome.
Lachimtara Surya, unmute Yana Surya.
नमस्ते मेरो नाम लक्ष्मीतारा डङ्गोल हो म गोदावरी नगरपालिकाको थिचो नेपालमा बस्छु म थिचो महिला जागरण बचत तथा ऋण सहकारी संस्थाको अध्यक्ष पनि हुँ हाल थिचो महिला जागरण बचत तथा ऋण सहकारी संस्था समुदायमा आधारित महिला हक हितको लागि काम गर्ने संस्था हो र हाल यसमा 2887 मेम्बर रहेको छ भने बचत हाम्रो 60,51,00,000 अहिले पुगेको छ यस संस्थाले बचत तथा ऋणको मात्रै काम नगरिकन विभिन्न किसिमको महिलाहरूको लागि हक हितको लागि नगरपालिका वडासँग समन्वय गरेर काम गर्दै आइरहेको छ यस्तै किसिमले हाम्रो यस संस्थाले चाहिँ 2072 सालको भूकम्प पछि सरकारसँग स्थानीय निकाय सरकारसँग समन्वय गरेर 300 वटा भन्दा बढी पुनर्निर्माण कार्यक्रम गरेको थियो त्यस कार्यक्रम गर्न एकदमै चुनौतीको विषयमा रहेको थियो विषयमा चाहिँ घर जग्गा लाल पूर्जा मापदण्डको र आर्थिकको समस्याहरू थियो ती समस्याहरू सबै सुल्झाउनको लागि हामीले नगरपालिकासँग पटक पटक बैठक बसेर सुल्झाएका थियौं यस्तै कार्यक्रमहरू आफूले लगानी गरेको कार्यक्रमहरू गर्दै जाँदाखेरि हामीले चाहिँ नगरपालिकासँग समन्वय गर्न सजिलो भयो र यो कार्यक्रमहरू गर्न जानलाई हामीलाई सहज पनि भयो यस्तै गरी हामी यो थिचो महिला जागरण सामुदायिक महिला मञ्चमा पनि आबद्ध रहेको छ र सामुदायिक महिला मञ्च अन्तर्गत रहेको सहकारी संस्था र म यस सामुदायिक महिला मञ्च कम्युनिटी वुमेन फोरममा चाहिँ सञ्चालकको रूपमा काम गर्दै पनि आइरहेको छु र कम्युनिटी वुमेन फोरममा हाल 35,000 महिला दिदीबहिनीहरू आबद्ध छन् भने 1 अर्बभन्दा पुँजी रहेको छ र यस 1 अर्बभन्दा बढी भएको पुँजीलाई चाहिँ हामीले विभिन्न किसिमको महिलाहरूको लागि चाहिँ विकास निर्माण कार्यमा चाहिँ लगानी गर्छौँ। यस कार्यक्रमहरू अगाडि लानको लागि हामीले आय आर्जन गर्न र जस्तै यो हामीले कोभिडको असरलाई कम गर्नको लागि चाहिँ सामुदायिक महिला मञ्चले विभिन्न किसिमको कार्यक्रमहरू ल्याउन नगरपालिकासम्म समन्वय गरेको थियो र विभिन्न सहकारीहरू संस्थाहरूमा चाहिँ आय आर्जनको व्यवसाय गरिरहेको बेलामा कोभिडको अवस्थामा सबैको आय आर्जन गर्ने बाटोहरू छुटेको थियो र यस समस्याले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ आय आर्जन गर्नको लागि चाहिँ लगानी गरेको थियो। यसै गरी सामुदायिक महिला मञ्च अन्तर्गतको सहकारीहरू मध्ये 12वटा सहकारीहरूले चाहिँ खाद्यान्नमा चाहिँ 0% को दरमा लगानी गर्नलाई चाहिँ लगानी गरेको थियो भने चाहिँ विभिन्न सहकारीहरूले चाहिँ तथ्याङ्क सङ्कलन गरी वडा कार्यालयलाई चाहिँ दिएको र जसबाट चाहिँ तुरुन्त नै खाद्यान्नको चाहिँ सरल रूपमा चाहिँ वितरण गर्न सकियो। यसै गरी धेरै जस्तो सहकारीहरूले चाहिँ सहकारीका सदस्यहरूलाई चाहिँ सुरुदेखिको अवस्थामा बचतमा चाहिँ उनीहरूलाई ब्याजको पनि मिना गरेको थियो। कोभिडको अवस्थामा विभिन्न सहकारीहरूले विभिन्न किसिमको कार्यक्रममा भाग लिँदै गएको थियो। जस्तै कोभिडको असरलाई काम गर्नलाई चाहिँ निर्मलीकरण गर्ने, माइकिङ गर्ने, कोभिडको असरबाट चाहिँ कसरी बच्ने भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ माइकिङ गर्ने र सरसफाइ कार्यक्रममा भाग गर्ने जस्ता कार्यक्रमहरू गरेको थियो। कुनै सहकारीले चाहिँ असरलाई कम गर्न निर्मलीकरण गरेको थियो भने नगरपालिकासँग समन्वय गरेर वासिङ स्टेसनहरू पनि राखेको थियो। यस्तै गरी विभिन्न सङ्घ संस्थाहरू समन्वय गरेर जस्तै लुमन्ती संस्थासँग चाहिँ समन्वय गरेर क्वारेन्टाइन सेन्टरमा सरसफाइका सामग्रीहरू राख्नको लागि सहयोग गरेको थियो भने यी सबै कार्यहरू गरेपछि सहकारी GWF र नगरपालिका बीच सम्बन्धहरू झन् बलियो हुँदै गयो। यसै कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ कार्यक्रमहरू गर्न चाहिँ सजिलो भयो। यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो सम्बन्धहरू राम्रो हुँदै गयो र विभिन्न समितिहरूमा सहकारीका सदस्यहरूलाई विभिन्न समितिहरूमा नगरपालिकाको बस्न सफल भयो।
We have found out that our technical problems are extending to posting to the screen. So we need Lakshmi. First of all, her time is up, but we now need to go to the beginning of the PowerPoint and update people as to the key points she's been making. So I'm going to do that very quickly. Is this the first? So Lakshmi is explaining that she's the chairperson of the Techo Women's Cooperative in Nepal, and they have almost 3,000 members in a savings and credit cooperative where they have accumulated, Lajana, can you translate the amount of money they have raised and saved? It's not.
Yes. The cooperative that Lakshmi Tara is leading, they have a cumulative saving of $600,000, and she's also part of the Community Women's Forum, and they have a total sum of $8.6 million. That is the total sum that they have accumulated, and that the money is being actually invested for livelihood, housing, health, education, for various purposes.
So the purpose and focus of her presentation is to show the level of grassroots women's organizing with more than 35,000 members who have over a long time produced these savings and this level of financial capacity. And she has spent a considerable amount of time explaining the role that their social movement played in the earthquake relief and recovery stage, when the Community Women's Forum was one of the few actors, community or otherwise, who could actually make tangible financial relief available to earthquake-struck families and communities who had lost their homes, their livelihoods, and their means of surviving. So what she is explaining here is that they built on that experience and what they learned works and doesn't work, and the partnerships that they built to respond to the 2015 earthquake 6 years ago, to now go on to apply those capacities to the current pandemic. And the Community Women's Forum in this stage has focused on relief and livelihood support and been distributing food packages, hygiene, and installing safe sanitation and hand washing facilities. I'm going to move quickly through the next slides because keep going. So she explains how they issue their loans, how they are tying the investments they're making into enhancing grassroots women's capacity to organize and deliver responses in a quick and impactful way. And they are using their collective power and resources to try to support and require building efficiency of the local governments for providing services. They are leading their governments to be more efficient and more responsive. What happened to the screen now? Okay, so we're going to ask Lajna to summarize Lakshmi's concluding words. We apologize that the screen keeps disappearing, and we're going to turn to Raylinda Sosa after Lajna has helped Lakshmi make her key final remarks.
Thank you, Sandy. The key final remarks is the recommendation from her. She's recommending that, investment, there need to be investment in building capacity of the grassroots women's organization. And that will in return actually also help in building the efficiency of the local governments. So investing in the capacity building of the grassroots women's organization doesn't mean that enhancing capacity of the women only, but also will help in building, in improving the efficiency of the local governments so that they can actually serve the communities in this kind of pandemic situation more effectively, right? So she, and also the last point, she also has made a recommendation that the grassroots women's organization who has been effectively working, who has been investing from their own resources for the benefit of the communities, they need to be included in the decision-making process. They need to be a part of the they need to be a part of the recovery plan and development plan of the SDG implementation plan, so that their work will be well recognized, well established, and they will also have a formal kind of role a contribution in making decisions for the welfare of for the benefit of the communities, for the development of the communities. So investment on women's organization doesn't mean that empowering the women also, but then empowering the community, society as well. And that's our last point, Sandy. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Lakshmi, for that dedicated summary of your efforts. We see why we're featuring right now grassroots women's organizations that are operating at a serious scale. I'd like to turn to Raylinda Sosa now, a member of the Huairou Commission Governing Council and the president of the Community Kitchens Movement in Peru, a national network of hundreds of thousands of women working to provide food security and family support on a daily basis. Raylinda, please. A su tiempo, Reli.
Muy bien. Ante todo, buenos días a todas las compañeras que compartimos este panel. Gracias por incluirnos en este proceso de compartir nuestro trabajo, tanto a los organizadores del foro y en particular a la Comisión Guairú, que es la que nos facilita estos espacios de intercambio. Soy Relinda Sosa, presidenta de la Confederación Nacional de Mujeres, que representa a más de 150,000 mujeres de base que están organizadas en comedores populares, las que atendemos en este momento a cerca de 80,000 personas que han aumentado por efectos de el COVID o la pandemia, como decimos, pero cada día en cada de uno de los comedores trabajan 3 mujeres. Entonces, a nivel nacional tenemos 39 mujeres por día que trabajan para brindar un servicio alimentario a la población. Entre ella, esta población, tenemos más o menos el 10% de esos 80,000, tenemos que son casos sociales, personas que no tienen capacidad de pago porque son de pobreza extrema. También trabajamos en temas de salud preventiva, salud comunitaria y también la prevención de violencia, que son temas que se han agudizado por efectos de la pandemia. Este trabajo lo hacemos con nuestras compañeras también, miembros de la red Grassroots Perú, que son la Central de Bancos Comunitarios y la red de Lima Este. En nosotras como organizaciones, hace 20 años teníamos ya un programa que el Estado aporta con el 20% de lo que cuesta producir una ración de alimentos. Los comedores están organizados por mujeres y con su trabajo y con la infraestructura y la capacidad de gestión, su aporte equivale a un 40% de lo que cuesta producir una ración. Y las personas que comen pagan un 40% de esto, es decir, tenemos 40 de la organización, 40 del que consume la ración y 20 del Estado. Una ración a costo para los beneficiarios están en promedio de $0.50. Nosotros tenemos también una mesa de trabajo con el Ministerio de Desarrollo Social, que es el ente rector de las políticas sociales. Y en el contexto de la pandemia, nosotras planteamos hacer un trabajo de campo para poder saber de qué manera tenían que orientarse los programas de ayuda en el contexto de la emergencia. Porque nosotros conocemos la realidad, nosotros estamos en el campo, vemos cómo las familias acceden, buscan el comedor como un soporte, una ayuda ante el impacto de la crisis de la pandemia. En ese sentido, es que hicimos un breve mapeo. ¿Cuál era la situación de las mujeres que están en los comedores y de la atención propiamente dicha? Encontramos situaciones como falta de alimentos para producir los alimentos, los menús diarios, falta de servicios de agua, pero sobre todo falta de materiales de protección sanitaria, es decir, necesitamos las mascarillas, los protectores, alcohol, una serie de desinfectantes que son costos adicionales a lo que antes se hacía. Ante eso, nosotros planteamos al ministerio que debería haber un incremento de presupuesto porque había nuevos comensales o usuarios que requerían alimentarse, pero también habían personas que ya no tienen capacidad de pago porque la mayoría de la gente trabaja en sectores informales y entonces el COVID ha hecho que pierdan sus trabajos y por lo tanto su capacidad adquisitiva. También planteamos que las mujeres deben tener acceso para que puedan tener las pruebas rápidas para detectar si estaban contagiadas y podamos evitar mayores contagios en el servicio que hacían en los comedores. De esto, lo que logramos aprobar En el año pasado, entre el mes de julio a diciembre, fueron 15 millones de soles para, 17, perdón, para protección sanitaria para las mujeres que trabajaban en los comedores. Por otro lado, también planteamos que teníamos que tener un mayor presupuesto para lograr la capacidad de atención a la gente que necesitaba. De esto se ha logrado protección sanitaria con presupuesto del Estado en el año 2020, protección sanitaria para el año 2021, para hasta el mes de mayo, y también hemos incrementado un 35% del presupuesto que ya teníamos. Es decir, si un comedor en el año 2020 podían atender a 100 personas, ahora pueden atender a 135 personas. Todo esto ha sido con participación de las mujeres de base, las representaciones nacionales. Los presupuestos se transfieren a los gobiernos locales y en los gobiernos locales también hay un espacio de participación con las líderes que también cumplen la función de planificar, de vigilar la ejecución, pero sobre todo de incidir para que se cumplan de la manera como se plantea. Es decir, estamos organizadas a nivel local, comunitario, a nivel de los gobiernos locales y a nivel nacional. Todo esto ha permitido de que las mujeres ahora estén reactivadas todos los comedores. Son 13.700 comedores reactivados y logramos atender a más de 800,000 personas que carecen de alimentación por efecto de la crisis. Es importante que por todo lo que hemos señalado, también hemos propuesto de que haya una mayor participación en la toma de decisiones, porque en el contexto de la emergencia hay muchos presupuestos, pero no todos son consultados con las organizaciones y por lo tanto tienen problemas para llegar a quien corresponda. También hemos pedido que en las estrategias de recuperación económica estén consideradas las mujeres de las organizaciones como una estrategia de compensación, porque lo que las mujeres quieren tener ingresos propios, quieren tener la capacidad de decidir de qué manera desarrollan y atienden sus hogares, sus familias. Necesitamos políticas de protección social, que también lo hemos planteado, y una de ellas en el contexto de la emergencia hemos planteado que sean las prioridad para las vacunas, porque las mujeres están en primera línea, por lo tanto necesitan esta atención. Y políticas redistributivas, porque en este contexto de la emergencia se ha subvencionado grandes empresas, se ha exonerado de impuestos, pero esos financiamientos no necesariamente llegan a las mujeres y por ello necesitamos que haya mayor participación en espacio de toma de decisión y poder nosotras tener políticas de género que reconozcan el aporte económico de las mujeres. La economía del cuidado está en los hombros de las mujeres y requieren servicios para que puedan desempeñarse económicamente también. Esto es lo que podemos compartirlos, agradeciendo a la Comisión Guairú y a la Red Grassroots Perú que nos ha permitido tener experiencias exitosas, pero también experiencias de las cuales aprendemos que tenemos que mejorar nuestras alianzas y nuestros aportes. Finalmente queremos decir que las mujeres tenemos acciones de protesta, pero también con propuesta. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Raylinda. And I think the combination of the presentations of Lakshmi and Raylinda from their two national networks are very important global examples that should be used and continuously referenced as a way to shatter the myth that grassroots women's organizations are small, they are fragilely structured, and they are representing small issues and patching together self-help efforts. In fact, these are mature grassroots women's social movements that are operating at a very large scale, both for periods of longer than 15, 20 years in growing and maturing themselves. And in both cases, they are providing services and strategic assistance that the government has been unable to provide or unwilling to provide on its own. And it is a basis for showing that grassroots women as global social movements are able to claim a role in COVID recovery that no one else can play. Now, on logistical issues, we can say that there are 40 attendees in our side event, alongside of 14 panelists. A number of attendees are part of the YRO Commission's movement itself. I'm going to turn to the next round of panelists, but for people that are not part of the YRO Commission who would like to ask a question, if you could type your question or comment in the chat, we will turn to you to actually speak, assuming that we have the capacity to let you speak, as soon as the next panel gives their presentation. So I'm turning now to we are discussing in the second round of our panels the importance of valuing the food security contributions grassroots women have made. We heard from community kitchens on how they are already providing, through an alternative development and social service approach at the community level, food security for the most food insecure. But in this panel, we are going to discuss women-led farmers associations, producer cooperatives, fisher folks, and food processors who have made an important difference in the relief and now moving into the recovery process. And the first person I'm turning to is in India, Naseem Sheikh, who is a key organizer and facilitator from Swayam Shikshan Prayog in Maharashtra, India, who is going to speak about the level of effort and impact of the Farmer Women's Enterprise and Savings and Credit Federations affiliated to Swayam Shikshan Prayog. Naseem, over to you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you to all participants and the YRO Commission providing me this opportunity to share my and the women initiative to the crisis during the pandemic. So, as I'm Naseem from Swayam Shikshan Prayog, India. We are working in Maharashtra since 25 years, and we are large network of 100,000 women. We are entrepreneurs and farmers in India. After lockdown, as we all know, the impact is on the community. On the one side, the food security problem is there, and the other side, all markets and enterprises are closed down, and the economic is stopped. So in this situation, our women leaders and the women farmers took initiative to address the crisis by first women initiated to respond the food security of migrants, the huge reverse migrants happen in rural communities, and the burden is on the panchayat and the local communities. So women took this crisis as an opportunity to reach out all the rich farmers and collected food grains and distributed to the migrants and the vulnerable families in their community. Secondly, women closely work with the Gram Panchayat and the public distribution system to distribute food grains, all other essential things to all the migrants and the vulnerable community in the, because a lot of the migrants came without their identities, and they're not having any kind of record to claim the public system. But these women work as a mediator between government and the community, and they try to ensure the how the food can be reached to these families. They are not stopped at that level. The food should be reached. So all the women farmers who are not able to sell their produce in the larger market, because all our markets are closed down, but it's still they created small markets within and surrounding the villages, within village and the surrounding villages, by providing vegetable sale, milk sale, mass production, various day-to-day essential needs. They created a lot of economic livelihood activities to address the pandemic, as well as to generate rural agriculture economy. Women, all their excess grains, vegetables, they converted into the seeds, and they kept that seeds to prepare themselves for the next agriculture season. So this way the women are trying to mitigate, to respond and recover from the crisis around the food and livelihood security. We at SSP, we are trying to, with the support of UNICEF, we work around 1 million people by building government functionaries' capacity for preparedness plan to response and recovery during this pandemic. So overall, all together, we try to, one side, we and our women network trying to keep regenerating rural economic, and other side, how our communities will become safe from this COVID-19 disease, and they can take care themselves and their community by adopting all the preventive care measures, and as well as the innovative ideas, innovative marketing and enterprise initiatives to respond and recover the pandemic. So I will stop here. If anyone has a question, I will address that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasim, for that presentation. I think we heard very clearly at the end that Nasim emphasized a partnership with UNICEF and the ability to provide food relief and support for over 1 million people. What she hasn't had a chance to describe in depth is how the Grassroots Women's Farmer and Enterprise Associations themselves survived and created alternative strategies for accessing income for themselves through finding alternative markets and alternative ways to market seeds rather than food supplies, which were shut out of the lockdown markets. In the wrap up and question and answers, we can hear more about how the women doing this incredible relief work have themselves been able to survive and keep income in their households. I'm turning next to Teresa Makawara from Zimbabwe. Teresa is representing the parents of handicapped children and will speak from a mutual self-help association in Zimbabwe of women parents of handicapped children who doubled their care responsibilities in the COVID response to not only support their children, but to provide wider mutual food support and relief through their efforts. Teresa, we look forward to hearing from you. Teresa, make sure you've unmuted your mic. Could the organizers unmute the speaker? Teresa? Go ahead, the internet connection is not strong. Could everyone who has just 1 second, Teresa. Could everyone turn off their video to Lajana? Could you ask to have the video turned off with your colleague, please? Thank you.
Video video off.
Go ahead, Teresa. We're just strengthening this signal. Go ahead.
Ay, Dios, qué pena, porque así nos vamos a perder en los temas y luego empieza el otro evento y todas no van a poder compartir. Bien. Sí, sí, te escucho a ti también, a Mara.
Hello.
A mí se me escuchó porque yo sentía que a ratos parece se iba como un poco la señal.
Can we move on with the next speaker, please?
Are you guys not hearing Teresa?
No, we cannot hear her.
Oh, she's been speaking this whole time.
Oh, okay. Maybe she's in the interpreter channel because we cannot hear Finnish.
Okay, so
Could you put your hand up if you did hear Teresa? Teresa.
Yes, I'm here. Did you call me Sandy?
Ocuparon su puesto de traductores.
Teresa, I need you to pause a minute. We're having another serious difficulty. It would appear, Teresa, she's not hearing me.
No, so you need to ask March to tell to remove Teresa from the call, and I'll reach out to her on WhatsApp with how she can reconnect.
Teresa, Marcella, we need you to stop Teresa's intervention, and Molly will contact her for how she can rejoin the call and continue her presentation. So right now, Molly will bring her back into the roster, but right now, if everyone can hear me, Shengul is KEDV ready to share their role, and we need to test if people can hear you on the call.
So shall I start?
So right now, could you raise your hand if you're hearing Shengul? Say something again. This is Shengul from K.
Hello, do you hear me?
Hello, we do.
Do you hear me?
I'm
Yes.
particularly looking for people that are not speakers themselves.
I'm hearing you.
I'm looking for people. Hold on a second. I'm just checking that more than the speakers. Okay, we're seeing people that are not speakers raise their hand. So I'm pleased to introduce Shengul Akhtar. She is the founder and director of the Foundation for the Support of Women's Work in Turkey, and she is going to share the COVID response and recovery work of her organization, working directly with a national-wide network of grassroots women's cooperatives. Shengul, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. So I'm going to share very, very briefly some of the experiences of women co-ops that we work together, and as how we support them during this pandemic, which I believe they might give some insights about a long-term recovery plan of grassroots women. So anyway, against all the difficulties and lockdown conditions, food producer cooperatives, they did not stop to operate and even managed to scale up their businesses and start digital marketing and outreach to large urban consumers. So during the process, we only provided training on digital marketing skills, finance for additional equipment, and technical assistance to for them to buy to get formal license, and connecting them with consumer platforms and private market chains. The other area that I would like also say a few words, is it okay?
Yeah, you just go a little slower for the translation into Spanish.
Okay. So the other area that I would like to say a few words is about how the grassroots women undertook leadership role in another area in their communities. So grassroots women, including the refugee woman who doesn't even speak a language, managed to set up their own physical space and childcare services to able to operate. Using their own mobile phones, whatever they have, they reached to thousands of households. They organized self-help groups on different needs of women and children, identified the needs of most vulnerable ones like elderly, sick, and the really poor with no income, and had their needs to be responded by the public agencies. They also disseminated information on preventive measures and referred them to the health services. Again, the same leaders managed to expand the scope of this initiative, Neighborhood Solidarity Initiative, and came up with a resilient action plan for their neighborhoods, meaning that they mapped the community needs, risk, and resources in the areas of like livelihoods, safety, basic services, including health and childcare and elderly care, recreational areas, infrastructure, and women's mobilization. Based on those maps, they developed their own solutions and specified their roles. They negotiated with the municipality over this action plan and managed to start a formal cooperation with the local government for the implementation process. The provisions from our side in this initiative was only providing them leadership support and training, internet access and tablets, and training on COVID measures and materials, facilitating the process they can build dialogue and cooperation with the municipality, and payment to the working hours of the community leaders for acknowledgement of their labor. So when I look at all these achievements of women, I see that they are not about rehabilitating the situation to go back what we had before the pandemic, with which we were not happy at all, but they are showing us the way how to transfer this world for a better one. In a way, they are giving lessons to the policymakers, how to govern our societies, and why we have to redistribute the wealth that accumulated with the great percentage with the share of the unpaid labor of the woman. So in that, in brief, these experiences also points out several practical investment areas that Grassroots Women's COVID-19 recovery plan should include. The first one is strengthening the networking amongst those producer collectives, cooperatives, and also the networking with interaction with other social solidarity platforms, and also enlarging scales of their businesses and marketing channels. The second area of investment is increasing the variety and availability of flexible financial resources for their investment and also for their emergency needs of these collectives. The third area is increasing the capacity of the grassroots women to involve in digital economy. We find this very, very important, especially for the coming years and etc. And we have to, as grassroots women, fight for free access to internet as a part of basic rights to have access to information, because it is not a need. I mean, it is a must, because in helping their children for the survival too, not only business, I mean, they need this. The fourth one is the investment area for our understanding perspective is that creating formal mechanisms at each community neighborhood of cities where women can play a public role in planning and implementation of resilient action plans, which seems very vital, I mean, for empowerment of women and also achievement of livable cities and thus a sustainable, resilient and equal world that the whole international community, they committed for that. The last area is expanding the childcare services in each community provided by women's collectives and creating space of their own for the women, I mean, to operate, to start small businesses collectively. All these investment areas, of course, they need from outside, from grassroots women's platforms like Huayru and Network, etc., or in each our national, local context, sets of advocacy and alliance building efforts, I mean, mainly targeting municipalities, especially financial institutions, internet providers, IT hardware producers, private sector, and most importantly, we have to build alliances with the similar movements like solidarity economy, actors, players, etc. So this is all right now, I can say. Thank you. I finished.
I heard you, dear. Thank you very much for an incredibly comprehensive account for how KEDV has partnered both with grassroots women who have been anchors and leaders of your national cooperative movement, but how they, with you, worked in solidarity with immigrant refugee women who were at the most disadvantaged under COVID and helped those women collectively organize and become formal and recognized supporters to their extended communities so that they could be at the center of addressing relief and recovery processes as public actors and organized and connected people. She also illustrated vividly the negotiations that grassroots women have been leading with their municipal officials to require government to assist and underwrite their activities. So we're asking Shingul to please send their written submission, their written presentation to Molly as part of the grounding of the development of our support plan and our COVID support advocacy plan. And I want to highlight that both SSP and KEDV were examples of grassroots organizations consciously supporting relief efforts of migrants and displaced people. This is a whole new level of formal intervention that I think is not seen in the COVID response, and again, a way to justify the critical importance of building an infrastructure that taps this. I now just want to say one logistical thing, and then I'm going to honor my promise to call on people. Teresa Makawara sadly is still having connectivity problems. We're going to, I see one hand from Violet Shavutzi. Violet, is your hand still up? And I see two attendees wishing to make a comment. Violet, is your, the attendees are Juliet Makoka and Marnie Tamaki. Violet, is your hand up? Violet?
Sorry, I wasn't intending to put my hand up because
Okay.
I know I'll speak at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let me remove.
So I'm going to turn to someone just dropped their hand. Is Juliet Makoka? Yes, her hand is still up. Could you say where you're from, Juliet, and make your point or ask your question? Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Santi, for this opportunity and for inviting me to participate in this forum. The ladies that have presented the activities in their countries, they are not different from what is happening in Kenya, and especially in the urban areas, in smaller, in slums, and in the rural areas also, where you find the women are so poor. And with this pandemic that came in, COVID-19 from last year, you see that women have really suffered. And for example, in one of the villages in Bungoma district, this woman is a widow and she has a child who is a mental retarded. So when this impact came in, and it was raining so heavily that her house had to fall, it collapsed. She has about 5 kids and she didn't know where to go. So a neighbor assisted her, and through my organization, we are mobilizing some resources so that we can build the house for her. She's a widow. And she's not the only one. We have very similar cases. And with this pandemic, it is so difficult, especially for the women with the children. They really get confused. And we have also supplied masks, washing soaps, and all these gadgets that we need to use. And now that, for example, some of these gadgets that we distribute to the communities, they come from Nairobi, and now with the third phase, they have closed the roads. You cannot go to Western, you can't go to Eastern. And even getting those carriages now is really becoming a problem. And so we are thinking of now we have to show the women how they can make their own masks, how they can make their own soap so that they can use it. Those are just the comments I wanted to add. Thank you very much,
Juliet. Thank you, Juliet. Could you also say, we heard you were from Kenya. What group are you a member of?
I work with an organization. It deals with environmental issues called Sustainable Development Watch. And I was interested in Urai Commission because I met some of you in Beijing, and I've been meeting with you when we have the meetings on habitat at Gigri.
Terrific.
And I know Violet.
Terrific.
So it's
Thank you very much.
I'm on your mailing list.
It's great to see you found us throughout this process. Welcome. I'm going to turn to Marnie Tamaki now for her question or comment, and then we're going to go back to the last round of presentations, which focus on governance for gender and women's empowering responses. So go ahead, Marnie.
Yeah, hi, this has been a very incredible conversation. And I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to congratulate everybody. And I actually didn't have my hand up, but thank you very much. This has been very wonderful to hear the stories from the women on the ground. Thank you.
Could you say where you're from, Marnie?
From Vancouver, Canada with Roots Canada. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Okay, I see there are other hands up, which I will hope to turn to after the final round of panelists. I apologize that technology has not favored our time. So now the last panel discussion is focused on building participatory local decision-making processes and partnerships to realize our grassroots women's recovery agenda. We heard from our speakers thus far a range of ways they also are building the plane by flying. And I'm going to turn first to Lana Finnegan from Grassroots Jamaica and a founder of Sister and Theater Collective in Jamaica to share her insights into what is happening in her country, good and less good, about the formal decision-making processes during COVID. Lana, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lana Finnegan, and thanks for joining us. From Jamaica through Grassroots Jamaica, our women have been on the ground since COVID hit last year, 2019. What they have done is that they have activated their safety audit tools that they have been trained in and using it to do assessment in their community. Through that assessment, they have identified domestic violence uptick. They have identified elders that can't go to clinics or get their medication or
Lana, hold on one second. Lana.
And through that identification process, they activated the local that they have been working with. Partners like you're hearing me? Hello?
Shingul, could you turn your video off? You're dropping, so I'm just going to try to strengthen our signal and speak a little slower, Lana. So just go slower.
So the women have activated their local to local dialogue, which for them includes stakeholders like the local municipal council, their councillors, the domestic violence unit from the police, other stakeholders within their community. And what they've done is that they have reached out to them based on the assessment that they identified through the safety audit, and get their local authorities, their councillors, the churches, etc., and social development commission to work with them across 10 communities within Jamaica, and to get them to help them to identify the clinics that they can go to pick up medication for the elderly. They work with the domestic violence unit in identifying and working with the women who have now been identified as domestic violence cases, and also with Women Inc. and Jamaica Household Workers Union. And they have been doing that since 2019. One of the strategies that they have put in place is using WhatsApp as a tool for the women who are in DVD. So for instance, they will use phone calls to alert their groups. So for instance, the first drop call mean I need help. The second 2 drop calls mean I'm in danger. And the third drop call mean I need urgent help now, come and get me. So they have set up those kind of system in place to ensure that they protect these women, and they work with the police and they work with their counselor. One of the things that they also do is that they work through the churches and provide meals for these elderlies. They provide care packages for these domestic violence victims. They use the care packages as a way of entering the home and ensuring that the women are okay and they are not being abused, and get information to continue to monitor and to process what is going on within these home across these 10 communities. And they use the WhatsApp group also as a communication tool for the group themselves, and exchange ideas and ways of getting things done. One of the concern also that they have is that 4 of the community leaders sit on the local authority disaster risk management committee, and the government have decided to give out stimulus packages, and normally it would come through the local authority, the councils, etc. That is not happening. The government is now saying that the MPs, which is the member of parliament, will get the money to give out, will ensure that the MPs give out that. The problem with that for the women and us is that that leads to corruption. You're not sure who will get these money. They are bypassing the women and the organizations on the ground who knows the situation on the ground, who knows persons who need care packages, persons who need money to help out their business, all of those things. And the women are now concerned, and they are working with their local authorities. Since they have done up a lobby letter to the local government minister to tell him that we are here, we are part of this process, we are working, we know who need these packages, we know who need the money to continue their life, to ensure that they're okay.
Thank you.
And put it out. They have also done a news release, and I will try and find a news release and send to you guys that they have done with their local authorities to hold the government accountable.
Thank you very much, Lana. I think Lana's echoed the themes of how grassroots women's groups have been at the center of mapping the needs for relief and for recovery and providing for them. And she's also talked about, as Shingul did, the critical role digital communication has played in helping women do rapid needs assessments and community level organizing and connecting. These are important parts of things we want to leverage finance to invest in the right community groups. And right now, I regret to say that we have 6 minutes left in our session. The organizers are not able to extend us due to competing needs for this connectivity link beyond our time of 1:30. So I am going to be calling on Violet, our global chair of our governing council of the WIRO Commission, and on Anna Moreno to capture and summarize key emerging issues and ways forward. And I'm going to give Teresa Makawara, who has managed to rejoin, to make a 2-minute closing remark on what difference a recovery platform makes for the Zimbabwe Handicapped Parents, the Parents of Handicapped Children Association. Violet, please go. And I apologize to our outside participant who had their hand up. We are happy to have you contact us and add your thoughts and to engage you. I apologize. Go ahead, Violet. Violet, you were there a minute ago. Violet Shavutse.
Violet isn't there anymore.
Anna Moreno.
I'm not seeing her, Sandy.
She was there 1 second ago. Anna Moreno, could you take the floor? Can you unmute yourself and take the floor? Anna. Teresa. Teresa, are you here?
Yes.
Hi, Violet. Teresa, you're there. Could you?
Yes.
Could you please tell us from a grassroots woman activist perspective, what matters to you in the COVID recovery process? What actions and priorities is your group setting in order to be resourced and rewarded for the incredible effort you've made in this period? The way forward.
Thank you so much. Our grassroots women in Zimbabwe, we are also mothers of children with disabilities, the care groups that are no longer active, while strengthening the of our grassroots women in the resilience building project. We scaled up our advocacy work from local to national and international level, strengthening our movement building in Zimbabwe. And we had also had a COVID-19 recovery, where we thought that strengthening our resilience building gardening by improving more than our 300 grassroots women who were survived on food and cells.
Teresa, you have
and expansion of the livelihoods project into community strengthening and projects affected by
Teresa, unfortunately,
can you hear me? By the COVID-19,
Teresa,
we did our agricultural values women with buying of machinery.
Teresa, we need you to turn your video off. We're not hearing half of what you're saying. And we need you to make a 1-sentence wrap up. I apologize. So a 1-sentence wrap up of what matters the most to your group.
Thank Thank you so much, Sandy. We wanted only our grassroots women to make sure that they own natural resources in terms of land, and they also are in control of the land rights and in control of to own land and control, and also manage locally available resources as part of our COVID-19 recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Is there any chance that Violet or Anna Moreno are available for closing remarks? It looks to me like they are not. So on behalf of the WIRO Commission, I would like to thank the 45 to 50 people who have participated in today's session. I think that we can all agree that some incredible innovative practices and strong community organizing and partnership have been illustrated by the panelists, and that these views of the level of action and the level of organization of grassroots women's organizations across urban, rural, and peri-urban poor communities are not the images we're seeing in the press. They're not the profiles we're seeing emphasized at the United Nations. And that gap between what is happening on the ground that women are leading and championing is the gap we must fill rapidly and strongly, and in our connectivity as a global movement and network. And we are pleased to be raising these issues at the Gender Equality Forum with the support of the government of Mexico. We intend to capture these insights in our action statement, our political declaration of the WIRO Commission at the Women's Forum here. And we invite you all to be, as you have been through this call, an active contributor to establishing the real elements of our global recovery platform that we will collectively take forward and champion. Thank you all, and thank you for new friends who attended the discussion. We are providing you with an email contact to stay in touch and be part of our efforts, and we sincerely apologize for the rough edges of the technology that has prohibited an interactive and engaging dialogue. Thank you very much. If everyone could turn on their pictures now and say hello and goodbye, it would be wonderful. If you can turn your video on, and special thanks for people who are participating at almost midnight, their time from Asia in particular. It's been a gift. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, bye.